It's the 5th of January. Are you still doing your New Year's resolution? So I find myself reading these productivity books. I'm trying to better myself. I'm trying to build systems in my life to help me. The 4 Noble Truths of the Buddha for Glaswegians. So here I was, finally painting the streets, finally doing what I wanted to do, finally being a street artist, I guess. And it felt so alien to me to be doing positive things for myself. The new year isn't actually the best time to do this. It's actually springtime. Hello and welcome to another episode of Living Life as an Artist. This time I want to talk to you about New Year's resolutions. I don't know if I've set them properly. I think a few times I have. I think I've also never really took it that seriously. I've found habits to be difficult to acquire and maybe even harder to maintain. I think one of the first things that I stuck with was not drinking, which is quite mad. And I did that in June. And I did it on a few days after my birthday. I definitely built up to it mentally in the lead up to it. So I think maybe that's what this video is about, preparing to create new habits. I'm recording this on New Year's Eve, or Hogmanay as we like to call it in Scotland. And I think I would just like to give you some reflections and insights on my own process of building habits. So when I was younger, I was never really able to stick to things. I was never really able to develop habits, or good habits, I guess. I was able to develop habits, but maybe ones that weren't very good for me in a sense. I wasn't very good at having discipline. My voice is a bit fucked because I was out last night and I was in a pub, and I'm never in pubs, and you need to shout in pubs, and my voice isn't used to it. My vocal cords don't have to do much work these days. Scottish tap water, ladies and gentlemen, the fucking best of the best. So historically, I've never really been good at keeping habits. I've never been good at developing good practices or sticking with things. Probably just sticking with things. The thing that I've stuck with the longest is my characters. I've somehow managed to maintain that over 20 years, and it's just a wee thing that I like doing. But in terms of fitness or healthy eating or I don't know, like meditation or stuff like that. For a long time, that just wasn't a part of my life. When I was younger and growing up, I don't really feel as though I had much sort of structure or discipline around my life. I wasn't part of a sports team. I didn't really go to many classes. I would start things and then I would stop them quite soon after. So very light New Year's resolutions. I feel as though that was kind of a bit of a pattern. My mum was always really, really supportive, and she bought me a lot of different things when I was growing up. I would get interested in something and then my mum would buy me the stuff that I needed to be involved in it. I remember I got involved in Kung Fu and she bought me loads of pads so I could go and spar with people. And I think I went and sparred with people once and I was like, nah, I'm not into this. I was actually telling somebody about that the other day. What I was saying was I was into Wu-Tang and they did into Kung Fu. So me and a couple of my mates went and did Kung Fu, but we quite quickly stopped it, probably just to go and smoke weed and listen to Wu-Tang. So I never really had that structure. I could reflect on why that is, what things were missing in my life that maybe didn't give me much structure, or what things were in my life that meant I was a bit more kind of free flowing. I think it's best to just look at the past, look at what it was. Don't try and create too much of a narrative around it or why these things happened. The why maybe doesn't matter as much as this is what's happened. What can I do now? Here's what was happening. Here's what I would like to happen now. And how do I go from that place to that place? And so maybe New Year's resolutions are just that. Maybe the point of them is to go, I'm not really having the best time here. Maybe I could have a better time over here. There's something I'm not really loving in my life. Maybe I could love something else over here. I feel like a lazy bastard. I want to be fit and active. I feel like I'm eating tons of shite. I want to eat healthy. These are just ones that I think about quite a lot. Maybe other people's are like, I've not left the country. I want to go travelling. I don't read any books. I want to read more books. I would probably say as well that I never really read many books when I was growing up. I definitely read a couple, but it wasn't like a practice for me. It wasn't something that I engaged in a lot. So how have I went from no reading many books to now being in a room surrounded by books? I wish I knew the answer to that. It's funny, I'm looking down and I've got this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I don't know if I've ever actually read this all the way through. I think I had it on my iPad, on the Kindle for a bit. I would recommend this book. I think it's about doing things that are really, really small. Something else that I would recommend is a book by Visa Khan called Introspect. There's something about doing things that are actually offensively small. They're so tiny, they're actually offensive to your ego. And Visa says that in Introspect. It's really, really funny. He's like, your ego will not want to do it because it's so tiny. For instance, doing one push-up a day, building from there. And that's like, I would do a push-up and then I'd probably think, well, that's pointless. And I would just never do push-ups ever again. But if I'd kept going, I would be able to do like 100 push-ups by the end of the year. And I'm pretty sure it's in this book somewhere. He talks about if you built up your progress 1% every day, you would end up with like a lot of progress. The 2-minute rule, that's a good one as well. I think I first read that in something else, to be honest. Getting Things Done by Dave Allen. Oh, I may as well get a few other books, right? What else have I got? Right. I've got that. So how did I go from being a wreckhead to then reading books? That is maybe a good place to start. And I think what happened was I got sober and I probably realised I'd been living in chaos my whole life. But I also started to get more responsibilities. And that was really interesting because I actually had to kind of start developing tools for myself to live life. And I never really had to do that before. Like, I would just show up to work and that was it. I didn't really need to think about it. I would just show up. But in 2020, in fact, something's just dawned on me. I got sober, which gave me a sense of agency. I was like, wow, I've got sober. I feel like I've got agency for once. I've actually made a good decision after spending years and years feeling like I was making really, really bad decisions. And each day I was waking up and I was staying sober and I was thinking, man, I'm like continuing to make this good decision. This is great. And I think because I'd made that decision and I knew it was good for me, it just felt really, really nice, and it felt really good. From that, I had an exhibition. I was a bit depressed after that because nothing really happened. But I mean, I organised an exhibition in my first year of sobriety, and I think that was quite a good thing for me to do. It gave me a focus and it just gave me something to aim towards, which I'd never really had before. I don't think I was ever really aiming towards things, which is interesting. I'm kind of just working this out as I'm speaking. It's funny how having something to aim towards can kind of focus your attention, help you move towards something. 2019 comes around, my second year of sobriety. I start painting the streets. Again, I have a focus. I decide to go out on Sunday mornings really, really early and paint the streets. I decided that's what I'm going to do and I create a routine around it. And it kind of felt like some kind of therapy, but it also kind of felt like some kind of worship. And I really, really loved that. I once painted on Church Street. There was a big building that the uni had and I painted probably my biggest seed there. I remember thinking, this is quite funny. I'm out on a Sunday morning when I used to be wrecked all the time, probably stuck in an after party or something like that. And I'm out painting the streets with this character that I've done since I was a wee guy. That's pretty cool. Do you know what I mean? It was a pretty spiritual feeling. It was pretty like fulfilling. I felt really great. But the thing was, I kind of lost my way with that a wee bit. My habits get knocked out of place. I just didn't stick with it, unfortunately. I didn't keep it up. As much as I've done a lot of things, I've struggled to keep them consistent. And I've bounced from one thing to another. So I started to think, how can I help myself with this and how can I make it better? I started reading into productivity, which is where these two books come in. So one is Getting Things Done by Dave Allen, which is a productivity system. It says the art of stress-free productivity. And it's super, super business-like, Jane, but I found it really, really useful. And it basically says that your brain isn't for storing information. You shouldn't be trying to remember everything. You should just be trying to have thoughts and then write them down. I don't know, say I'm like sitting chilling and I think, oh, I need to do this thing for that person. Instead of just trusting my brain to remember that when I need it to remember it, what I should do is I should write it somewhere. I used to try and use notebooks and stuff like that, but it wasn't really working for me. I would find when I closed the notebook over, I wouldn't really look at it again and I would sit it down somewhere and I would forget about it. So I ended up looking into an app called Todoist. It's a to-do list app. I've got it on my phone, my iPad, my laptop. They're all connected and it also connects directly to my Google Calendar. It's quite funny saying that out loud because back then, at the time, I'd never used a calendar. There's probably loads of people think, why the fuck would I want to use a calendar? My mum, growing up, always had a physical calendar where she would write things in. And I always thought, that's pretty funny that she needs that calendar to remember things. But I literally don't remember anything. I need a calendar, do you know what I mean? I need to put things somewhere. And Todoist and Google Calendar together have basically been how I kind of organise my life the past 5 years. And it's been amazing. I type something into Todoist and it automatically puts it into my Google Calendar. I just write like a time and stuff like that. Again, I would love to do like a tutorial video of it because I think it's great. I'm not there yet in my career, but maybe one day you'll get Scottish tutorials from me talking about all the things that I use. I don't use that many things, to be honest. I could talk about getting things done for ages and ages. It's a full system. You write down your thoughts, you collate them, you separate them. I don't think I use it to its full potential, but it served me kind of well and it pointed me in the right direction. So this was a really, really great book for me. I don't even know if I want to talk about these books that much, but I think these books are part of my journey along the way. It's part of like a lot of work and effort that I've put into changing myself as a human being. I think that's probably a big part of it. I was always searching for answers. I wanted to improve. I wanted to better myself. I wanted to not feel like a fuck up, basically. I felt like I was a fuck up for so long that I was like, maybe there's people that used to feel that way and now they don't. And see, to be honest, I don't know if these guys really felt as though they were fuck ups. They seem very confident Americans, just like getting things done, man. They don't seem to have an issue with it. But they do seem to know about some of the problems that arise when you're trying to get things done. This one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is another belter. So I find myself reading these productivity books. I'm trying to better myself. I'm trying to build systems in my life to help me. But see, to be honest, man, I probably wasn't really implementing that much change. There's really, really good things in here. The 7 habits are, I always forget the 7 habits. If you want to know them, go and read them. But the first habit is be proactive. And I think for me, that was really, really important because I would just sit and fuck about and say that I was going to do something and then no do it, or think that I was going to do something and then no do it. And I think that has a kind of compounding effect where you basically kind of build up distrust with yourself. I'm pretty sure Visa's got something in Introspect about that, where he says that if every time you say you're going to do something, even if you don't say it out loud, you just say it in your head, you're like, today I'm going to go and do this. And then see when you don't follow through with that, you're basically just telling yourself, I'm a fanny, I don't do the things I say I'm going to do. I'm a liar, basically. I can't be trusted. I'm just useless, basically. And I think I'd done that for so many years. Today I'm not going to drink, and then I would drink. Today I'm going to do this, and then I wouldn't do this. And you just sort of build up a real distrust with yourself. You don't build any integrity with yourself. I kind of owed myself this mental debt. So be proactive. Being proactive means, see when you have a thought, do it. I'm going to go for a run. Don't wait till tomorrow to go for the run. Go for the run today. Begin with the end in mind. I really like that one because if you don't know where you're going to begin with, you might end up somewhere you don't want to go. You can work really, really hard and before you know it, you're like, why am I here? So start with the end in mind. So the thread that runs through all this is I will start things and then I'll stop them. And see, as soon as I stop them, my brain goes, aye, that's because you're crap. You obviously weren't going to be able to stick at that. Why did you even try? You may as well just give up. That would just be a common cycle for me. A good example of this is I wanted to wake up at 7 a.m. You're reading a lot of books and hearing a lot of stories that having a good morning routine is a big part of being successful. And I personally don't really see success in the way that a lot of people maybe see success. I just want to feel okay inside. That's kind of it. I just don't want to feel terrible. I've felt really, really terrible and I've felt really, really trapped. I'm trying to just maximize no feeling terrible and no feeling trapped. I don't want to feel stuck in something that I don't want to be doing. I want to feel expansive and free and full of potential. So that's what I optimise for. That's my idea of success. Having a morning routine seemed as though it would be a good part of that practice. But I kept trying to get up at 7 and I'd managed to do it for a day or two and then I would miss a day. And then because I'd missed a day, I would basically be like, right, that's it, I've fucked it. I may as well give up. And then I just wouldn't try again. And this cycle would just go on and on. What I started to realise was it's okay to miss a day. I'll be honest with you, see right now, I don't have any habits in place. I'm a person who for the past 3.5 years has really thrived on having good habits. They've not all been 100% all of the time, but I've always maintained some daily practices. I've got a wee note down there and it says, beyond the mountains, more mountains, which I heard in an Oliver Burkeman book called Meditations for Mortals. I listened to that book because I'd listened to his other book, 4,000 Weeks, which is another absolutely amazing book, which I would highly recommend you check out. Listen to it as an audiobook. I really, really enjoyed it. And I also enjoyed Meditations for Mortals, especially for that quote, beyond the mountains, more mountains. 4,000 weeks basically explains that we only have about 4,000 weeks on average in our lifetime. And that goes very, very quickly. I think it's 80 summers in total. And that's quite a terrifying thought because I've already had 35 summers. So I'm approaching the halfway mark of life potentially. And that's quite scary. So what he explains in that book is you have to choose things. You can't do everything. The more you just decide to choose some things, the more you can actually attend to those things. So for me, there was certain things that I wanted to do and that I felt would be good practices to have in my life. One of the first ones that I did was cold showers. It's a bit of a cliche at this point, but I think there's something about taking a cold shower that is really, really useful because it doesn't feel nice. I like the fact that I can get in and do something that's uncomfortable. Sometimes I will take a couple of days off during winter and I like to just cut myself that slack. See if you can get in a cold shower, feel uncomfortable, basically feel discomfort, and then get back out. When I first started it, I would turn my shower cold at the end and I'd get in for about 5-10 seconds and I'd get back out and I would think, this is brutal. Why am I doing this? But slowly but surely I started doing it more and more and I created a wee ritual around it. I would say some mantras. I would say, what did I used to say? What is it? I'm messing this right up. I love myself unconditionally. I believe in myself. I'm allowed to feel good. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I've got everything I need to be me. I'm safe and I'm complete. As soon as I closed my eyes, I got it straight away. I also used to do like a wee meditation thing. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the kindness meditation, I think it's called. And basically I would say, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be well. And oftentimes I would think of somebody that maybe I wasn't feeling the best towards, and I would try and picture them and I would try and wish them well. And again, that was a good practice, which I haven't been keeping up, but I'm just going to be honest about that because I think it's dead easy to watch videos and be like, wow, this person's got his shit together. And I've definitely done that. I remember speaking to some people once and I was like, yeah, I'm getting up, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. So, and it's maybe easy to feel quite negative and quite bad about that. I think I'm all right about it. And I think I know that it's there and I can come back to it. That's my plan, to be honest. My plan is to return. And it's funny because even that language is I'm planning to do it. But I remember speaking to my sponsor once and I was like, oh, I've kind of lost my morning routine. And he's like, well, just do it again tomorrow. I was like, all right, okay, cool. I did. I just did it again the next day and that was me back into it. And I think it can often be that simple. So cold showers were the first one that I picked up. I didn't like it. It felt really uncomfortable, but I enjoyed that and I kept it up and it became a regular practice. Every morning I would wake up, go for a shower and I would turn it cold at the end and I would do my wee mantra while kind of spinning round like a wee frozen kebab is what I used to describe it as. So that was really good for me. I also at one point paid to do the Transcendental Meditation course, which I think a lot of people are pretty skeptical about. And what you get from the TM introduction seems like it might not be worth it. But I think on a larger scale, it kind of is worth it, right? It was worth it for me because I think it meant that I was more committed to the practice. I took it more seriously. I invested in it. And I think investment is something I hadn't ever really been doing. I invested a lot of time and energy into partying and getting out my nut. But things that were actually good for me, I wasn't really investing much of myself, my time, my energy, my money into. And so I think paying money to do the TM course was probably quite good. And it basically helped me develop my first kind of meditation practice. I kind of lost my way with it a wee bit. So basically you get taught a mantra, but after a while, my mantra kind of stopped working. I don't really know why that happened. Maybe it's natural, but it just kind of stopped working. And instead of reaching out to the people at TM, I just kind of stopped doing that version of meditation. And I found myself just sitting. But getting into meditation was quite interesting because it allowed me to, I don't know, get interested in other things. I got interested in Buddhism. I listened to like a few different books about Buddhism. I bought a few books about Buddhism. I've probably got one somewhere up here. I got this one actually. So I don't know if anybody's ever read this, right? Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha. And then it says, an unusually hardcore Dharma book. This seems really cool. Maybe I'll read this when I get older. See, when I delete Instagram, that's when I'll read this. I would love to get into Buddhism more, I think. I think there's definitely something about it. It feels very aligned with what I believe in. But I mean, this is like technical stuff in here, and there's probably a lot of stuff about Buddhism that I've never even heard of or understand. So this one for the future, that would be interesting. Life is quite funny. It's full of twists and turns, and I got interested in Buddhism. I went to the Zen Buddhist Centre in the centre of Glasgow. That was quite funny. I bought this meditation mat, and I used to sit and meditate like this. And I've not done this for years and years now, man. Like, this is probably quite a good spot for this, so maybe I'll get back into it. But maybe I would do it the other way. Maybe it'd be better to face the window. Maybe I can create a wee altar. Aye, that's pretty sick, isn't it? I think in Buddhism, there's a lot of stuff about paths. So I felt as though I was on the path. And it was really funny because I was working in Maryhill and I started noticing these stickers that says, the 4 noble truths of the Buddha for Glaswegians. 1, life is shite. 2, life is shite because you're a cunt. 3, if you stop being a cunt, life will stop being shite. And 4, the way to stop being a cunt is to do what the Buddha told you. And I just loved it, man. I thought it was so funny. And in a kind of nice synchronicity, someone came into the youth group that knew this guy who was actually a Buddhist monk. I somehow ended up in touch with him and we started emailing, and then we went for a big walk. And he's a writer and he's called Dogo and he stays in Maryhill with his wife, Dai Shin. And I really, really love them, and I hope they get to see this because he's class. I still remember going for that walk that day with him, and it was just great, man. It was a nice sort of uplift for my spirit that there was a Buddhist monk living in the Wynford in Maryhill who wrote a book called Kill Yourself. And I just really loved it. I thought this idea of getting rid of the self is pretty magical. And obviously I built up a whole sort of persona and lifestyle around a self and around kind of different selves. But I think that I've learned sometimes to kind of be less attached to myself and take things less personally. Still a work in progress and it's still very hard. So meditation, I go to TM, I get my Buddhist cushion, I'm meditating. Eventually what I did was I got a wee watch and I used to just wake up in the morning, I would come into the living room, I would sit on the couch, I would set a timer for 20 minutes and I would just sit there. I think when I first started, I think I would be feeling, I don't know if I'm doing this right. But see, when I got to the point that I was just putting my timer on and I was just sitting there, I just wouldn't really think about anything. Sometimes my brain would race. Sometimes my thoughts would go places. But I didn't try and wrestle with them. I didn't try and fight with them. I was actually going to say sometimes my brain would go places I didn't want them to go. But I think maybe that happened in the beginning. But over time, I would just let my brain do what it wanted to do. And I maybe become less attached to my thoughts. Something my sponsor always says, which I really like, is thoughts are like trains coming in and out of the train station. They come in, they come out. You don't need to get on the train. You can just watch the train come in and out, come in and out. And that's it. Just observe. And I think that's really good because often I'll have a thought and I will jump on that train and I will go away with it train and I will take it as far as possible. And that's not good. I think something that I've noticed is that you can kind of build up routines and habits, but sometimes you think, I don't even know if these are doing it. Like, I actually don't know if this is making my life better or anything, so maybe there's no point. And so I guess recently my habits have started to dwindle slightly. And I've just been waiting to kind of find out what's going to happen. Let's see. Are these ones working? Are they no? Maybe it's this one that works. Maybe it's that one that works. I'm not really sure. Another habit that I used to try and get into was running. I'm not really sure why, but for some reason, I had this real attraction towards running. There's an amazing artist that I love called Kid Acne, and I was following him on Instagram, and he had a big, beautiful beard, and I was growing a beard, and I was like, this guy looks cool, got an amazing art style that I've always loved. But then I started to notice that he was running quite a lot. He was basically just promoting the benefits of running. And so I started to have this kind of affinity. I think because there was somebody that I looked up to most of my life, to be honest, and here he was running. And I think I'd always associated sport and running with people that I wasn't like. That's those people over there. They run, they do sports. I'm over here. I'm kind of too cool for that train. I like to just be cool and just be a fanny and get mad with it all the time. So here I was, finally painting the streets, finally doing what I wanted to do, finally being a street artist, I guess. And here was a street artist that I've always looked up to, and he was running a lot. So I was like, maybe I could actually run. He seems like a good guy, seems to have a nice life. So that's attractive to me. And I think that's almost like a kind of foundational thing, is that you have to be attracted to something to want to do it. Like someone has to kind of demonstrate it to you almost, or make it attractive, or else you maybe wouldn't do it. And I think obviously we can discover things on our own and we don't need to be influenced by others. But I think kind of like mentorship or even just example is a really, really important thing, because without example, it can feel quite abstract. And the way that my brain works, I think with an example, I'm able to attain things a lot quicker. Maybe because it's aspirational and maybe because it's inspiring. I would like to kind of emulate what someone else is doing because outwardly their life seems as though it's attractive to me. And I say that just because I don't actually know what's going on with anybody that I follow on the internet. The way that social media works is it's quite surface level, but some people do share a little bit deeper. I try my best to be as honest as possible, mainly to try and sort of demystify that stuff anyway. So I started doing Couch to 5K probably back kind of 2020 even. That was really, really good for me because it gave me structure and it meant I didn't burn myself out. I actually was able to build up a little bit of tolerance to running. And again, it was starting really, really low. You don't actually run straight away. You run for like a minute and then you walk. And it was quite humbling. Like I wanted to be like, no, but I can run. I'm good at this, or I know better. But I just shut up, man, and I just humbled myself to the thing. I just did what they said. And eventually I built up and I was running a 5K. What I'll say though is the whole time I didn't feel like a runner, and I felt as though I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. My brain was screaming, what are you doing? We do not run. We only run if we're being chased. Please stop running. This isn't you. And I'm like, I try to run. And it's going, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Stop running. That was a struggle. And because it was such a struggle, and because I didn't feel like I was a runner, eventually I stopped running. And I think this is a really important thing, is identity is such a big part of habits. I stopped drinking, and the day that I stopped drinking, I was no longer a drinker. I was a sober person, and I strongly identified as that. I also stopped smoking on the same day. I went from one day being a smoker to the next day being a non-smoker. I didn't smoke anymore. And that was my identity and my mindset was, I am not a drinker and I am not a smoker. I don't do anything. I don't take drugs. I don't party. I just don't do it, right? That's me. That's this new identity that I've got for myself. I'm now in my sober era, as the kids would say these days. So that was really powerful for me, changing my identity and changing my beliefs. I'd never really believed in anything before. I had a really profound experience one day. I was walking over the bridge next to Botanic Gardens, and I just had a thought to myself, I believe that if I don't drink or take drugs anymore, my life will be better. I was maybe like a year and a half sober at this point. So I already knew my life was already better, but I just had this sense that if I keep doing what I'm doing, my life will just be better. And I didn't really know better in what way. I just knew that it was going to be better than what it would be like if I was drinking. And I had faith in that. Like I had real faith. And I hadn't had faith in anything my whole life, I don't think. I didn't really have faith in anything apart from maybe that my life was going to be shite, or that I was useless, or that I was a fuck up. I probably had faith in all of those things. For once, I actually believed in something that was positive. And it was strange. I felt it in my stomach, and I felt it kind of almost radiate out into my body. Like, I believe that. And that kind of opened up this space to believe in other things. And I think that's when I maybe got interested in Buddhism and stuff like that. Because I was like, I've been so against believing in things that maybe if I believe in this, maybe I can believe in other stuff. So that was pretty cool, and that was pretty special. Something strange happened. When me and Nikki first started dating, she invited me to do a park run with her in Tollcross Park, and I agreed to do it, and I was a bit cocky. I was like, I'll be able to do a 5K, no problem. Hadn't really ran for ages. But I went and I did it, and it was actually all right. I must have just kind of developed some kind of muscle memory for the running. I felt all right, but I got a time. And my brain, as I've said, likes metrics. So getting this time sparked something in me. I was like, oh, I want to kind of like try and beat that time, or maybe just like improve on that time. It's mad. It's 25 to 3, and I feel as though it's already getting a bit dark. I don't know if I'll need to put a wee light on at some point. Aye, that looks a bit better. I went, I did this park run, and I don't know, I got a bit of a buzz out of it, and I like getting time and stuff like that. But what I started doing in a kind of jokey way was anytime we were driving about and I saw a runner, I would go, my people, my people. And I basically just started saying like, those are my people. Find your tribe, they say, right? And I think that by me going, my people, yes, my people, I was able to kind of like trick myself into believing that I was a runner. And so I just got into it, man, and I got Strava and I started running, and turns out I was actually pretty fast, man. Like I was actually pretty good at it. Seemed to have some kind of natural ability with it. And I have a feeling that the natural ability was the same ability that I had when I was getting mad with it. It's almost like a resilience. Just a persistence, do you know what I mean? I was persistent and I was consistent, and I was able to keep showing up day in, day out, pretty much, do you know what I mean? That's how I drank, and that's how I ran. I would stick at it, but sometimes I would have a bit of downtime. I'd maybe get a wee bit unwell and I'd have to start again. And that was difficult, but I kept coming back to it. I did a half marathon in October there, and I would say I pushed myself a little bit too hard. I ran the half marathon in 1 hour, 32 minutes, 30 seconds, I believe. I didn't feel good after it. I thought I was going to be pure enlightened into doing ultra marathons or something like that, but I really wasn't, and I've actually not ran since then. So another habit has fallen off for me. Do you think that's had any impact on me? Again, I wasn't really sure the impact of running and what it was doing for me. I think I was feeling pretty good. One final one that I was going to bring up, right, which is actually probably one that I did ages and ages ago. I think it's a good one to mention. It's from The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. I may as well bring them up. This one is morning pages. So in The Artist Way, Julia Cameron recommends a thing called morning pages. And at a certain point in my sobriety, I kept hearing about it and kept just coming across it basically, and people talking about it and bigging it up and saying it's a good practice and a good thing to do. So I decided that I would do it, and I got really into it. These are all my books that I've done. Try and see if I can find book one. I started doing morning pages on the 17th of September 2021. I think I've done 11 books. 18th of December 2022. So I'd done morning pages for about a year, it would seem, maybe a wee bit longer. I don't know, man. I think there's something that's heavy, do you know what I mean? There's something about the weight of this that speaks to me. It basically tells me that I've done something with myself, do you know what I mean? I've put a bit of time and effort into myself. I've invested myself into something. I think before this as well, I'd been journaling quite a lot digitally. It would be interesting to see how many words I've wrote across all my journals on my iPad. But basically journaling was something that was recommended to me. It's just recommended generally online. If you journal, again, you get your thoughts out of your own head. And I think for me, that was quite a positive thing. And I've had really good experiences with journaling. I developed an inner hype man within myself. I was able to speak to myself in a positive manner, probably for the first time in my life through journaling, because I was able to occupy two different sides of myself, I felt. I would find myself writing really negative stuff because that was my kind of baseline thinking. But I was able to kind of counter it and be like, nah, man, you're actually pretty sick. You're a decent person. You're good. Come on, let's fucking do this shit. And I would hype myself up a wee bit. I think something that I learned during these morning pages is that you can't really hide from yourself when you're doing them. I've not even explained how to do them. So the first thing you do when you wake up is you grab your notepad and you write 3 full pages of A4 paper, just stream of consciousness. Don't think about what you're going to write, just write stuff down. And you just write 3 full pages until you're done, basically. And there's times when I've wrote in here, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why I'm writing this. What's the point? And then eventually something will come. Someone asked Julia Cameron why you can't just type them, and she explains to her it's like being on a motorway and you're driving at like 60 miles an hour and there's a turn off that you need to take. So as you're writing, your brain might go somewhere and you're able to take that route, and you're able to go off the motorway onto this other route and start writing about that. Whereas if you're typing, you're probably going too fast and you'll miss a lot of the kind of offshoots of where your brain might take you if you're doing it by hand. And I definitely found there was something pretty, there was something pretty good about writing it by hand. It was a bit of a slog, and it used to take quite long, to be honest, man. It would take like 45 minutes sometimes. I get quite distracted sometimes and I wouldn't find myself getting into the flow of it. And I would need to just persevere and I would need to just stick with it. But I like it, man. I like the fact that I've wrote a bunch of stuff in these books, and nothing fancy, just a wee Tesco A4 notebook, do you know what I mean? Didn't cost a lot of money. Couple of biro pens, get you started. And I guess I would highly recommend The Artist Way. I said I was going to make a video about it at some point, but I should probably just come clean now. I don't actually know if I've read the full of The Artist Way or done it all properly. So again, I'll maybe make a video when I actually do it properly, because I felt like a bit of a scammer when I said that the other day, like, oh, I've been there, done that. What I meant was, I've been there, done that with the morning pages. I've done them a lot and I really loved them. But again, I've not done them for ages. So the pattern that is emerging is I start things, I stop them, I kind of give up on them, I lose track of them. I've not painted the streets in ages. That's another thing that I really love. So what's my reflections on that? What have I learned? I think for me, it's probably that self-improvement takes a long time and a lot of work. And you kind of need to just show up for yourself, and you need to try and do things that are good for you more than you do things that are bad for you. It's maybe like a scale, do you know what I mean? And I'm drinking all the time, I'm smoking, I'm eating shite, I'm just not looking after myself, right? So I'm on a negative footing most of the time. But then getting sober, it almost gave me an opportunity to like do some positive things. And it felt so alien to me to be doing positive things for myself. Don't know, man, it was mad, it was funny. Like, there's maybe something about the pace of life as well, and about instant gratification. Something that I do all the time, right, is I scroll on Instagram all the time, to the point that I don't even have it on my phone, but I just carry my iPad everywhere. And I'm basically just like this, right? And I sit, even to the point now that I go, oh, I scroll on Instagram. And I must look like some mad old man because I'm like, oh, I scroll on Instagram. But it's like, people scroll like that, right? Like, people sit and scroll. Whereas I'm like this, scrolling pure. I'm no flawless. I'm no perfect. I'm still very much a work in progress. And I think I always will be. So balance is really hard to find. I've struggled with it. But I think even saying that I struggle with it is kind of a bit unfair, because balance isn't just this position that you get into. It's constantly in flux. And you're always going to kind of ebb and flow within life. It's just natural. But I do think that making more positive choices than bad choices is kind of the place you want to try and get into. And I don't know, man, maybe there is a place that you can get to where you're just making all the positive choices and you're not making bad choices. That would actually be kind of cool. I think there's something in my brain that says that I must always have some kind of treat or reward. And often the reward will probably be something that's a bit negative, like eating something that's not very healthy. And in the grand scheme of things, for myself, that doesn't seem that bad. But I guess the danger is I can think like that. I can think, I don't take drugs, I don't drink, I don't smoke. So eating badly isn't that bad. But over time, that bad choice could add up into some quite bad health problems. And it's something that I would kind of like to attend to, I guess. How do you attend to these problems? You just try your best to make more positive choices than negative ones. I've really enjoyed making this video. It's a bit all over the place. I've really enjoyed looking through the books. I don't think I really intended that. I thought I was just going to leave them sitting there, but I hope that's made some sense to some people. One final thing that I'll say, New Year's resolutions are actually a bit mad. I've heard that the new year isn't actually the best time to do this. It's actually springtime, because in springtime, the sun starts to come out, the flowers start to appear again. You just feel happier and a bit more positive. So I would kind of end this video by saying, maybe take this video and use it to prepare for what you plan to do in the spring. Maybe right now isn't the time to do it. I might put this at the start of the video just so you're only like, oh man, this guy's telling me to do so much. So I'd maybe wait till spring, prepare for making good choices when it comes. And I wish you all the best, man. It's really, really class. One final recommendation, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's an absolute must read. He talks a lot about resistance in this, and I'd love to do a full video about this at some point because it was also really, really useful. It breaks it down in a really simple way, and it's just really, really class. So I'm grateful to be here. Don't be hard on yourself. Everything in moderation, including moderation. Peace.